Thank you. So Sue Kirschman, who ordinarily does the introduction, she wrote a piece saying that I'll just read using her words. I was born in Penticton and recall only one fire of note in 18 years growing up here. Summers were never smoky. There was no such thing as a fire season or Okanagan. Fast forward several decades, and wildfires are a threat every spring and summer. These fires are the direct result of climate change and pose a serious danger to us all. We can adapt, and there are things that we can do to reduce the risk. And that's what we're talking about this evening. We're very pleased to welcome guest speaker Clay Stevenson. He's a wildfire mitigation specialist with the RDOS Fire Smart program and also a volunteer firefighter with the Okanagan Falls Fire Department. Clay understands the importance of educating people, also kids, neighbors, communities, on how we can all better prepare for wildfire events. During his talk today, Clay is going to spark awareness to create how we can create a better future for our communities, more resilient to wildfires. So please, as Clay talks, put your questions into the chat and I'll pose them to Clay at the end of his talk. And by the way, if Clay or myself or any of the participants mention links to other topics related to tonight, Lori collects all of these and she puts them into the video which is sent to you so you can see it again or send it on to your friends. And you can also look at some of the links that we've talked about in the evening. So, Lori, perhaps we should just have a look at the results of the poll. So 20% are very familiar with FireSmart, 80% are somewhat familiar, and yes, people realize they are, or they live in high-risk fire areas. Quite a few people really aren't sure whether they're in a high-risk area or not. And there's been a fair amount of people working on their properties, making changes, which is good. And I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about this during tonight's talk. So please, Clay, we're very happy to hear you tonight. Can you stop sharing that, Lori? Is that possible? And then we'll get Clay's presentation set up here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll bring that up now. Are we sharing there?
You're sharing?
Good. You guys didn't see my messy backdrop.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Margaret. Again, my name is Clay. I'm a wildfire mitigation specialist with the regional district here in the Okanagan Similkameen. I'm also a volunteer firefighter, like Margaret mentioned. And with my roles within the fire department has actually then solidified why fire smarting is such an essential part in our communities. So trying to create a resilient, fire resilient community is what our main goal is. A little bit of what I'll cover tonight is what is FireSmart, why FireSmart, what is the wildland urban interface, some home ignition zones, some landscaping ideas, some building construction, as well as some last minute fire smarting. It's time to get fire smart about wildfires in BC because, you know what, living in this community, we realize that wildfires are part of our everyday life and we need to be able to work and live within them. So we'll start on with what is FireSmart? I don't know if a lot of people have seen, but we do have a lot of information out there. We've been putting a lot of advertising. So we've got information for plant programs as well as home mitigation programs. We've got a BC educational program that we've started to go through just to get that fire awareness within the community to then help these communities learn and figure out what fire smarting is and how they can help prepare themselves in the event of a wildfire. FireSmart BC, the FireSmart program in BC is directed by the BC FireSmart Committee, which is a group composed of many different agencies. We've got them all listed on the side here. Multiple people working together for one common goal of a safe British Columbia. The goal is to collaboratively maintain and improve the delivery of FireSmart BC program to better support wildfire preparedness, prevention, and mitigation within the province of BC. FireSmart is about living with wildfires and managing it on our landscapes. Like I mentioned before, like this is something that we cannot control. Fires are a common occurrence that can't be controlled or stopped by us. So the best thing to do is to be able to live within the region with the fire and then tolerate it that way as well. So FireSmart is the Canadian standard recognized by all provinces and territories. This is a program that goes straight across Canada. But in BC, we're a little bit more of a unique province, and we have developed it to a different level to meet our standards and our criteria within the province here. It's based on the National Fire Protection Association for standards and has evolved over the last 40 years. We are very backed by a lot of field laboratory and modeling research. There are actually some forests up in the Northwest Territories that are set aside and burned to see how they effectively go through and put properties out in that area to see how they damage or affect homes in their different construction phases. FireSmart guidelines have proven their legitimacy as measured of hazards throughout the environment. So our mission with FireSmart BC is building a resiliency to reduce the negative impacts of fire for everyone in the province throughout FireSmart. The vision is wildfire resilience province where everyone works, plays, and lives FireSmart. And our strategic goals throughout are is that everyone in the province is aware of FireSmart. If everyone is aware of it, they can understand their roles and accept some responsibilities and take action to increase wildfire resiliency within all our communities that we all live and work and play together. So why FireSmart? Well, I think one of the main goals is it's been in the news a lot for several different reasons. One of them is Palisades, California. This is an entire neighborhood that is completely wiped out due to the devastation that came through with the forest fires in January of this year. It doesn't just stop at forests, it will continue all the way through. Looking on these pictures here on the Palisades on the left, at least 16,000 structures were lost in that community and upwards of $250 billion of insured damages in that area. A little bit closer to home in 2023, we had the McDougall Creek wildfire up in Kelowna. And that fire, we had over 100 homes destroyed, 200 damaged, and over $480 million of insured damages within that community there. So in 2024, this is a snapshot of what our wildfires look like in British Columbia. They are a phenomenon in BC due to climate change of how that is constantly affecting our environments up here. With warmer weathers, it dries the fuel, just the grasses and the trees and everything else in our forests, allowing wildfire incident to take place. We have either lightning strikes with global warming, lightning strikes and lightning storms are increased due to the drier weather, as well as people going out into the communities, dirt biking, creating sparks into the communities, which then could cause accidents and bring that forth into the community or from the fires. Here's a little bit of a snapshot of our last ones. Our two worst forest fires were 2017 and 18 for note of that one. 2023 and 2024 have been getting up there as well, but we can see like how many hectares have burned. We lost a lot in 2023, and the monetary value was over $1 billion in 2023, with damages insurable consequences on that aspect. Why does this affect us, or where does it affect us? It's the wildland urban interface. So most communities that are affected by wildfires are the ones that are closest into the forest surrounding areas, which if you look around in your neighborhoods around the Okanagan here, we have forests pretty much in all directions of us. I'm in Penticton right now and I see forest on either side of the mountain from us. So we call it the wildland urban interface. And this is the zone which transitions between the forest and human development. We can see on this one here, this one's called an intermixed. So we have the homes mixed within it, the community and the trees, and then the interface where it just kind of butts up right against it. Why this is important to us is because of this picture here. So this is my neighborhood in 2020, the Christie Mountain wildfire. I was evacuated with my family, which then restilled the importance of fire smarting and how proper preparation prevents some major situations up in this environment, or this area. So this was a big pull for me to get into the Fire Smart program, knowing how devastating it can be in the communities. I have been an evacuee, and as well as I have been an evacuer. So I have gone to communities where I've gone in and helped people fire smart and remove them as forest fires are coming towards their homes. And how fires are started from these forest fires are airborne firebrands or embers. We've discovered through all the research that 90% of the homes that have burned due to forest fires are not from convection or radiating heat from the fires. It's actually from the embers that are lifted into the environment from the forest itself. With the convection heat that comes from intense wildland environments, those embers can go up towards of 2.5 kilometers. And we learned this in 2023 when we saw that the Medulla Creek fire went across the lake from West Kelowna into Kelowna there. So these embers are able to go up into the ground, and they're pine cones, chunks of materials, and they will land on homes within the area or vegetation close to the home, which then can ignite the home. And sometimes it happens days afterwards. So when an ember storm comes through, this can just smolder for a couple days around a home or on top of a house somewhere. And then 2 or 3 days later, that can ignite and then create another issue. I have a little video here that I can play. Oh, maybe. And this is a good example of airborne firebrands and how they transmit through. Play. There we go. So this was up in Fort McMurray. You can see on the left-hand side there, we have some pretty intense flames coming off the one side. You can notice the gentleman on the motorcycle, he's getting a lot of radiant heat. You can tell he's kind of not feeling too comfortable there as it's going through. But you can see that there's a whole bunch of sparks that are coming across the road in that aspect. The flames are quite high in that area. But we can see on the other side of the road that there are some smaller fires coming into event. As these fire on the left burns all those trees, that fuel is essentially gone. And without fuel, the fire has nothing left to it. It is dying down as we speak on the left, but it is growing on the right. With no more materials able to burn, it has more things to burn and ignite and to go from there. What we've discovered from this one is, whoa. So we can see on this one, like the flames have subsided in the one side of the video, but the video afterwards, we can see the damage that has been caused by that. So with the wildland coming into our area, we have what is called the wildland interface disaster sequence. And that would be something like we have severe fire conditions. We have warm temperatures. We have a good fuel supply in our forest of trees, brushes, and shrubs, as well as the good topography in that area. And then we could have a wildfire. So it could be from a lightning strike or it could be from someone out in the area. And that would be an intense spread throughout the communities. And as that then approaches our communities, we could then have multiple simultaneous ignitions within, from house to house, or it could blow over one neighborhood and go to another neighborhood, which then would overwhelm fire suppression units. We are then tracking from neighborhood to neighborhood, trying to put out fires as they go and as they are spotted up, which is there's too much fire and too fewer resources, which then reduces the fire protection in that area. With the lack of resources leads to a reduce of effectiveness. Essentially, we're losing a battle because we don't have enough resources and supplies to fight all the battles all at once. With the Lytton fire that we had, within the first hour, there was 100 homes that were ignited, and to effectively fight that one, that you needed 200 fire engines. So you quickly run out of supplies when more and more homes become involved, and that is how we get into the disaster. Many homes totally destroyed. But one thing that FireSmart is trying to get into in this area is if we can stop it from getting into that major disaster area. And the way we do that is before it gets into the urban fire area. If we can prevent homes from igniting from wildland fires, that prevents it from compounding down and reducing our abilities to fight and maintain and get control of the situations that we do have. Again, without appropriate pre-fire mitigation, fire department efforts are frequently overwhelmed. And it's really frustrating and hard to have not enough supplies, not enough water to go and do the job we like to do. So with fire smarting, it's about living with wildfire and managing it for our landscapes. FireSmart recognizes that wildfires are a natural part of many ecosystems, and instead of trying to eliminate these fires entirely, it focuses on adapting them and reducing their impacts on our communities. By managing our landscapes, this involves creating and maintaining landscapes that are less likely to ignite and spread fires. This includes using fire-resistant plants, maintaining defensible spaces around structures, and managing vegetation to reduce fuel loads. FireSmart's methods have been shown to reduce the risks of loss even under extreme fire conditions. These methods are based on extensive research and have been implemented successfully in various communities throughout Canada as well as into the United States. And I have another video. Maybe. Okay, maybe not. That way. Sorry. Where's my mouse? There it is. Ah. So that brings us to our home ignition zones. So our home ignition zones are around our own properties. So here you can see on the picture, we've got the house in the middle, and right next to that, we've got the immediate zone, the intermediate zone, and the extended zone. FireSmart, our main focus is on your house. That is the main priority for fire smarting, and then you slowly work your way out from that area, because if your home doesn't burn and then you reduce the fuel further and further away from it, that is our main goal. We mentioned that firebrands and embers are the main cause of fires on homes. So if you properly maintain your house, that's one reduction that we can go through. So the first one is, we want the characteristics of the structure is what we look for, as well as the surrounding flammable materials and vegetation. So the first zone is the immediate zone, which is 0 to 1.5 meters around your house. This also includes items like decks and structures that are attached to your home. We like to choose non-combustible materials when constructing or renovating your house. Clear the vegetation and combustible materials in this area. So a 1.5 meter zone of non-combustible area, something that would have like crushed rock or brick or concrete around there, something that does not burn close to your home. We try not to have grasses or brushes or shrubs right up against the home, because if something like that does catch fire, it then puts a lot of radiating heat and conductive heat right onto the home itself. Avoid planting any kind of shrubs and trees. avoid evergreen vegetation, and avoid hedges leading directly up to your building. This is like a wick where it just is a path for fire to flow from one side right to your house. The next zone is the intermediate zone, which is from 1.5 meters to 10 meters. And elements in this zone are managed so they don't allow fire to your home if you have properly maintained your home. And then within the first zone, this one allows that no fire can then make its way up there as well. And in this area, we remove vegetation like cedar hedges, junipers, spruce trees, plant fire-resistant vegetation, and select non-combustible landscaping materials. Avoid incorporating any woody debris, including mulches. A lot of people use in their gardens bark mulch because it holds it. But again, with the drier conditions that we have been having with these summers, that bark mulch does not retain the moisture level as effectively as it does, and essentially it's just a pile of sticks sitting beside in your garden. Um, and keep combustible items like pallets, construction material, patio furniture, tools, and flammable decorative pieces out of this zone. And also create a non-combustible ground cover like a gravel pad underneath or around trailers, recreational vehicles, or sheds. So if you have a shed on the property as well, give that the extra 1.5 meter defensible zone where it has that ability, and then fire smart that building as well to make sure that it can sustain. The last zone is the extended zone, which is 10 to 30 meters, or depends on your property. If you have a larger property, you could continue this going through. And the goal of the extended zone is not to eliminate the fire, but to reduce its intensity. That way, with this way, we can reduce by limbing up and removing branches on all the trees up to 2 meters from the ground, regularly cleaning up. Every tree drops leaves and branches throughout the year. Removing that material from the ground that is accumulated over the year is one way of reducing your risk of wildfire making its way to your home. And then again, with our zones that we do overlap as well. So fire smarting is a great community event where your zone could overlap into your neighbors next door. So having these conversations with neighbors so you can work together and cohesively have a fire smart community is a good aspect. Um, let's see if this one's going to work. Oh, no, come on. I've got some good videos. There we go. So perfect example of what home ignition zone could look like is here on this video.
There's no sound.
Um,
Stop it and maybe, I think when we go to screen share, you need to select a different sound at,
okay.
at the
I
bottom.
can tell you what I can go through and
Yeah.
let you know what he's going through. So essentially, they have a wind generator. So this is a factory down in the States, and they recreate wildfires. So they have wood pellets that go into high intense fans, and they are able to throw it towards structures. And this is inside of a building. And so they've got a huge wind tunnel that builds it in. And they've got a building behind that has two different materials on it. They've got a fire smart side on the right, and then on the left-hand side is a typical non-fire smart building as well. So with the embers showing, you can see that the bark mulch in the front has already started along with the shrubs, and it's already made it right up into the eaves underneath the roof there. Fire smart property is looking pretty good on that side. And then, so the aftermath of the post-test analysis on this aspect is they were able to come in and see that the redwood front porch was able to catch fire because of the bark mulch underneath it. And then having that right up against the front door was allowed to then bring heat and flames right up against the door. And you can see at the base of the door, it was able to then impinge and get into the house on that aspect there. Having that combustible deck attached to the building allowed the fire to go straight towards the home. But on the non-combustible side of the home, the non-combustible deck was able to survive. It had skirting underneath it to prevent embers and sparks from going underneath the deck, as well as you'll be able to see in a second, there's some embers on the mulch. So we've got embers that have burned and had nothing to continue their fine, like as well as their vegetation is far enough away where it didn't give any radiant heat or any information towards the house to ignite anything on that home. Ooh. So then that brings us into a little bit of landscaping. With landscaping, we like to think that hedges lead your building are straight line for fire to fall. If you have down the side of your fence line between your neighbor's property and your property, that's one straight line of continuous material that could burn. Hedges are great at wicking fire towards or away from certain areas. So we like to have avoiding rows to prevent that. So instead of having everything in a straight line and this side on the right, these are kind of spaced out. You know, from the front view, it looks like everything is all lined up. But when you get the top view, you can see that there's some spacing between all these different plants, which then allows that bit of a fire break from each and individual plant there, and then reducing that risk, having a safe distance from your home so it doesn't have a chance to continue on. Which is layering and staggering your plants. Utilizing pavers and concrete patios are able to then into your landscaping ideas as well. A well-maintained lawn is a fire-resistant lawn, you know, nice and mowed and watered. But there are different alternatives, which are water-wise ground covers for hardscaping options. We've got lots of different alternatives here. A lot of people have been using clover for a good grass cover as well. It's lots of less water retention or needed into it, and it adds a lot more color, and it doesn't burn in the summertime when you only can water so often. It has a pleasant scent too. We have some woolly thyme and hens and chicks is another good ground cover alternative. It's got a great area where it can cover a vast area and give a lot of color into your area, and it is a fire resistant type of plant. We have some great attributes here for decreasing flammabilities. Plants with low oils or resin content in them. Cedar and juniper and those types of trees have a higher oil content, which makes them a little bit more flammable, or makes them very flammable. And that's why we want to have those as these as alternatives for those ones. They have a higher moisture content and they're compact for growth. We have alternatives. So instead of getting something like creeping juniper, an autumn amber sumac is a good alternative. Russian sage is another one that is a highly flammable oils. Blue flax is a good alternative, and catmint. But even though plants, the proper plants on the property are there, every plant needs maintenance. You know, we can see that there's some pine needles and sticks that have accumulated within this tree. So in an ember storm situation, if there is some sparks that we're able to get into that tree, that would then create a fire within it, and then having that intensity of those needles within that tree would then make it more susceptible for that tree to then self-ignite, to then be a little bit more of a risk. One thing, again, fuel continuity is leading to the home. On this one here, we've got cedar hedges, which go straight towards the house. And another one like is having multiple trees the same. So it's the similar trees and they're highly flammable and it goes right up against the house. And then this third one as well. So we've got the cedar hedge right up against the structure itself, not creating that defensible system, space of 1.5 meters. And the radiant heat and convective heat that comes up off of this gets right up into the soffits underneath, which then could expose into the wood structures of the deck that's over impinging there. Again, cedar hedges, they're lovely and green. They're a great space, but once you open them up, they're mostly dead inside. With all the cedar hedges, the material dies, it grows, and then the material stays within it, and then it grows, and then it stays within it. So that material is constantly accumulating for years. And with that tinder dry material, able to catch a spark, and then having that heat within that bush again was easily ignites the oils that are in the greener parts of the shrubs, and it can just continue on and work its way from there. They are radiate a lot of heat. We had one home in West Bench this summer, and the radiant heat from the neighbor cedar hedges melted the vinyl siding on the side of the home at 18 meters away. So that is increased the distance. Normally we like to have them 10 meters away, but with the hill that came up, it had enough heat that it was an effect on that area. We did some work with the Kelowna Fire Department, and they were able to share some stats with us that they've been dealing with hedges, everything highlighted on the one side, hedges, hedge fires, fireworks going through. It's a constant issue, and it's not something that is just a wildland fire issue, because in this one, all these cedar hedges, this was April of last year. Having that early in the fire season, our fire season usually starts at the end of May, but having this in April, it's dry enough to ignite, and luckily enough, it didn't go to the structure on this one. Also early spring last year, they had another one, but this one was able to cause a little bit of damage to the home here, and if there was enough heat and sparks and able to get into it, having that in that area would then cause more issues in the home, in the structure. And I have more videos. I don't think this one has volume either, but come on, it's a good one. Ha. These are why we don't like cedar hedges. So this was a video in North Vancouver last year, where there was some construction workers, and I think they were doing some pool liners, and one took a smoke break. And so he decided to put his cigarette out in the person's cedar hedges. And 6 hours later, it had festered and smoldered throughout the day, and then was able to, like, this is how fast they go. The oils that are in the cedar hedges are very volatile, and they spread and throw off that radiant heat quite quickly. Even though the homeowner was quite quick to get out there in his boxer shorts, it is still quite an intense fire for a garden hose to put out. And you can see that with these cedar hedges going up, we have all of these embers and sparks that are now from the convection heat from the fire, they are now going into the yard. So that could go towards his home, could go towards any of the other cedar hedges that are in that surrounding area. Yeah, he works very hard, and he feels the heat in a second here. Yeah. And that can bring us to fire smarting. So we've got another for parts for fire smarting landscaping hub. The Fire Smart program has a great hub for information of what plants are fire smarted. There is a map as well for different nurseries that are fire smart plant programs. The one here in Penticton is a Fire Smart program, and I've heard that Canadian Tire possibly might also become a partner in this program as well. So we've got the link up at the top there, which we can save for afterwards. When we get into a little bit of building construction, So when we come and look at homes for the home inspection, we look at all the different materials on your home. And the first thing we do is we start at the top of your house. When a firestorm comes through, the embers are going to land most likely on your roof at that time. Having a Class A material roof, something like asphalt, composite shingles, metal, or slate or clay are fantastic for those fire rated materials. One thing we don't like to see is the cedar shake roofs anymore. There are still quite a few of them around. As the embers do fall onto your roofs, like, even if it is a Class A fire rated material, if there is a pile of pine needles or a pile of brushes or something up there, it is only rated to then sustain a small amount of fire. But if there's an intense burn that's on there, the integrity of those tiles or those roofing can be compromised, which then could impinge and get into the structure itself. Um, the next one would be the gutters on the side of the house. The recommendation is always to choose metal over plastic if you can. Plastic ones will melt with the heat that's coming up through it. Um, Unscreened vents in the side of the home can allow embers to enter the building. Once they're into the attic trusses of a structure, it is very difficult, and it is a loss at that point once the home gets fully engulfed in the structure of the ceiling. We recommend over the vents that are exposed on the sides of the homes as well as on the roofs to use a 3 millimeter non-combustible mesh or install a amber resistant vents. Um, Here's a great example of, everyone has what they can do for fire smarting. And this lady has seen that she's got a bunch of leaves on her fire rated roof, even though, and gutters that are full of leaves. If an ember had fallen into the gutters, and if it's a metal gutter, it could sustain the intensity of the fire going in that gutter. But having it right underneath the shingles, the shingles, the top are fire rated, underneath isn't. So then that allows the heat and exposure right to the roof material underneath itself, and then could ignite the roof underneath the shingles, circumnavigating the shingles on the top there. The next thing we look at is the siding on the home, choosing non-combustible options like stucco, brick, fiber cement board, metal, or poured concrete. We chose to avoid, if we can, wood, vinyl siding. Not to say that if you have a wood-sided home, if it is properly maintained, if there's no cracks or no gaps within your woods and it's not deteriorated and there's no places for embers or sparks to get into, that's definitely a benefit for the home as well. And down at the bottom here, we see that there's a 6-inch minimum of ground to siding clearance. And that's allowing for combustibles. If there is ever an ember that gets onto a leaf or something that is right at the base of the structure there, it doesn't allow it to get to underneath the siding materials and get into the structure. The next thing we look at is windows. Windows are the weakest point of any structure. Usually they fail before the structure ignites, providing a direct path for flames into the interior of the building. Tempered glass is a superior protection as it's resistant to high impact and high heats. One of the things, as it is a gateway into your home, direct to the in front of it, we recommend not having any vegetation, as having something in front of it allows it easier to impinge into the building and create an issue. Next thing is on the structure as well. We've got fencing and gates. If there is a wood structure, a fence, it's the same as a cedar hedge. Those wood structures can wick the fire directly towards your home, and having that right up against your home is not ideal. Ideally, we would choose to have a non-combustible option. You can see in this picture here, they have a wood fence, but they chose to have a non-combustible metal fence that is in that non-combustible zone towards their home. So this choice was able to be made in that way. If you're building wooden structures or pergolas, We try not to have them tied in to the structure of the home as well. Again, there was another home in West Bench this summer that had a pergola that caught fire. Luckily, it didn't continue to burn, but it was built right into the siding of the home, which could have been a little more devastating than it was. And then building construction is on annual maintenance. So every home, just like every tree, every plant, there's always some upkeep that needs to be done around the homes. So we're always looking, checking gaps and cracks in the siding and soffits, ensure that all vents, louvers are functioning properly. One of the main vents and louvers that we recommend to look at is the dryer vent. A lot of them have the flapper. So you don't want to put a mesh screen over top of the dryer vent, but having that flapper allows, when the dryer is on, it opens up, allows the dryer material to come out, and then close when it's not being in use. But when dryer lint material gets built up, it can actually then hold open that louver and then has a direct access into the home on that aspect, as well as with dryer vent material, which is very, very combustible itself. So we make sure that also check the gaps and doors around your entrances and around your garage door and your home, as well as general cleanup around shipping and receiving areas around your home as well. So if there's any area where you notice that leaves accumulate in the wind, that's usually the same area where embers would go during an ember storm. They will find that area and jetty around and come to rest on that same area where those material is landing there. The next one is for evacuation and site prep. So again, living with these environments, there's a lot of things that can be done ahead of time. And one of the recommendations is removing flammable items around from your non-combustible zone in those events. And this was one of the homes in West Bench. So this one here had a storage container. So she did the right thing where she had her patio furniture pillows in a plastic storage shed, but it was right up against the side of the house. And then when the embers came, it was able to then ignite that. It melted the plastic and then was able to then self-combust on that one. And then it actually burnt the vinyl siding off the side of the house and started charring the exterior of it, as well as it got into the decks. The decking material here. On this one on the right, that was a doormat that was out front. So again, having those removed during a wildfire event reduces your risk, having that ability to prevent fires from literally coming up to your door here, like we see. Around the building, the recommendation that we move combustible items that are within 10 meters of the building, such as doormats, patio furniture cushions, decorative items, potted plants, and propane tanks. Open door, wooden gates. If you do not have a non-combustible gate alternative, if you have a wooden gate, if you prop and hold that gate open, having that door open essentially creates a fire break from your fence to your house and stopping it that way. So if you can secure your gate in an open position, that allows it to protect your home a little bit better there. Close all doors and windows to your home before you leave. Again, you don't want to have any windows open if when the ember storms come through, they're blowing quite ferocious winds that come through. So you don't want to have things that could possibly get onto your frames and into it. If you have fresh air intakes, if you can, turn those off so those airs are not be coming into it. Remove leaves, pine needles, and other debris from the roofs and gutters, and then remove as many obstacles as possible to help firefighters safely and effectively around your home. And also around the yard, remove the leaves, pine needles, and other debris within 10 meters of the building, and ensure that your grasses are mowed within those 10 meters as well, to no more than 10 centimeters in length. With grasses at that height, they are able to be more fire resistant. Longer grasses are dry out easier in the summertime and then allows more of a fuel base underneath it there. And then some of our resources we have. So we've got our FireSmart website here, and it gives you full access if you guys want to look at some manuals, some guides, some assessment forms. We've got a lot of different research material, posters and graphics. We've got the website down here. So the website for firesmartbc.ca. And then if there's any questions, it can go to info@firesmart.bc.ca. And then do we have any questions?
We do have quite a few questions that
Excellent.
so I'll start us off. Someone is asking about insurance. Do you see a future where, or maybe it's already been done in some areas, if you're fire smarting your home, that there might be reduced insurance costs?
So we're not there yet, but we do follow suit very closely with what happens in California. And what's happening down there is a lot of homes that insurance companies were not able to sustain, and they were not providing fire insurance to a lot of homes down in California. With up here in BC, what we have adopted is there are two, I believe it's cooperators and BCAA right now. If you have a home assessment and a fire smart certificate on your property, you can get a discount on your home insurance. And it might very well soon come down to it if you are not have a fire smarted property, that you might not be able to get fire insurance for your structure in this environment with how we are constantly seeing
Great.
the evolution of fires.
Yep, thanks. By the way, Clay, could you stop screen sharing and then we
Oh,
can
sure.
kind of see everybody in the room? That'd be great. Second questions, that someone is living in a condo
Mhm.
and is wondering, do you more or less have the same principles? Can you use the same resource material that FireSmart's produced to sort of assess safety in a condo or strata
Absolutely.
situation?
We have gone through, I have done strata communities where I've gone through and done an assessment for the entire community. Apartments are the same thing. It's the building structure on the exterior as well. So if it's landscaping, materials that are up close behind to the property as well, we would have the same recommendations for a home, a cabin, an apartment, a building, any kind of infrastructure that we have as well. That is essential that we have consistency across. So it's great to have the same principles to take the same reduction of risk for those as well.
Great, thanks. Now, Gwen is like a lot of people on this call. She's got a wooden deck and she's wondering, aside from ripping the deck out and redoing it, what are some steps that us deck owners can do, wooden deck owners to
Wooden deck
make,
owners,
yeah,
proper maintenance. So if your deck is in good condition, there's no cracks, there's no rotten pieces, no areas where sparks or embers. If it's maintained properly with, if it's painted or if it's sealed in a good way, it doesn't allow the embers to then go through it. You will have an issue possibly if there was more like materials on it. So if keeping that clean to not have those pile up leaves or pine needles or mats to remove it. So if there's something for a fire to catch onto it, then that allows that wood structure. If it's a solid piece of wood, like the finer the material, pine needles are like combust really quickly, but a branch or something a heavier a solid doesn't burn quite as easily. But if it has more heat around it to sustain that, it would then weaken that structure of that and then would allow it to burn. So as long as it's clean and free of debris, that should help that area.
okay. Thank you. Sim is, I think, owner of a vineyard, and he's wondering how he can make a vineyard fire smart. Um, the vines are in straight lines, but do you ever look at agricultural property owners to think how they
Uh,
can?
we do have a ranch land, farmland as well. And so there are many different ones. In Okanagan Falls, last year, we actually had a grass fire that started and it worked its way into a vineyard and it destroyed half the vineyard because you do have wooden supports and structures that hold up a lot of those vines as well. It's reducing materials. So our main focus is on the structure itself and then working its way out. But to protect the vineyard, if there's removing the fine materials, keeping the grasses really low around the grapes and the vines themselves. Having a good moisture relatively high in that area is a good one as well. And then reducing, again, build materials, not having construction materials close at hand, something that could catch and spread on that way. But having that the grass is shorter and maintained and reduced, have no cedar hedges next to your grapes.
Avril is asking about whether is there cross-border cooperation in reducing risk? You know, across the border, there's a lot of fires, obviously, just across the border. Do they have a program like FireSmart and just other wildland risk reduction? Is it being done in Washington too?
Yeah, there's lots of so a lot of other communities throughout the states have different FireSmart programming. It's not FireSmart exactly the same, but they have the same principles with the defensible zone starting at the home and working their way out. There's a lot of different avenues and aspects of going on that. For cross-border sharing, how I see it is if there is a wildland event, we would then help or send resources to fight the fires on that. So we've had a lot of American firefighters come up and help us with our wildland firefighters up here, as well as BC Wildfire has gone down to different, they helped down in California in January. So we do cross share on that aspect as well as information sharing. The fire chief up at Apex is a forester as well, and he does a lot of research down in California and in the States. So he's working with the scientists down there and creating the research and figuring out what can be implemented up here in Canada. So there's a lot of information sharing. It's a lot of resources that go back and forth between the two of us.
Thanks.
Unless Trump's going to keep that going. I don't know.
Right, right. Jay submitted a question by email. He was wondering if you could address the risk of natural gas lines in neighborhoods and cities.
Usually, those infrastructures, natural gas lines are normally underground in that aspect for those areas. If they are above ground, the provider would have a proper maintenance or clearance around them, just like electrical lines. If they are exposed in different communities, power lines have a certain rotation of where they need to clear the vegetation around them for infrastructure for our power sources. I'm not 100% familiar on the natural gas lines of that one. Mostly they're underground into the communities as we come and see them.
Maybe I could follow up on that a bit. I think, can people hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, Clay, that was excellent. And I was on a webinar with a large engineering company in San Francisco that has a specialty group within on wildfires, and you pretty well hit every single thing that they had on their site, which was great. The one thing that you mentioned and that we've run up against here is that 2 years ago during the Crater Mountain Fire, there was a summer home in the area, in the area of the fire. And the fire went down through, and that house had been entirely designed and built, you probably know about it, to be as fire smart as you could possibly be. And it was also covered with cameras and uplinked to a satellite so they could watch the fires that went through the area where the house was. And all the exterior claddings, everything went just according to plan, except that they didn't have tempered glass in the windows, which blew out and they lost the house. But to show the sort of vagaries of these kind of fires, they had a substantial outbuilding about 10 meters away from the house. It was untouched. So these are the things that happen. And I'm wondering whether we will see maybe a small industry start to build, putting what might be a tempered glass storm shutter on the outside of windows to give it just that extra 30 to 40 minute, because these, as you well know, these fires go through quickly. And if you can hold off the heat for 30 minutes, chances are the fire will move on and your house may survive.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jay. So Clay, most of us do not have tempered glass. Is that right?
Yeah.
Regular glass
Usually it would be like a double pane glass. Most house construction now is double pane.
Does that offer any more
It's
protection
better than
around?
single pane. So single pane has that, that it's very brittle in that aspect when it comes through it. They haven't been making those for a number of years, but the double pane is a better grade. But again, yeah, tempered is the superior product. There's better, best, and incredible. But having something that could come in with wildfires coming into our communities more and more, there are more companies that are figuring out where homes could be impacted and what they can do. There are certain companies that sell pumps and sprinklers and things for home protection. So if you do have a rural property and you can get a water source, you can provide your own fire suppression or sprinkler protection in wildland events. So when the embers are coming through, we go up onto a fire. This was 2 years ago, and we set it up with sprinklers. And as the fire was coming down the hill towards us, we then turned the sprinklers on. So the sprinklers didn't get turned on until the fire was coming at us. And then we evacuated the area. And those sprinklers were able to create a relative humidity to bring up the humidity in the area. So when sparks did land, it didn't have that dryness for them to then self-ignite and go through it. And that structure was, it was a home and a garage up there as well. But yeah, there are many different venues and options for people to uh, figure out what they can do to help protect their homes. Because again, it's our castles. That's what we have, and if the more we can do to protect our own homes, the better. Because down in California, they lost 16,000 structures. That's a lot of people. That's 200,000 people that were displaced. That's a lot.
Well, thank you, Clay, making us more realistic about what we should be doing around our properties. And I want to emphasize for everyone that you'll get a copy of this to look at again, and also we'll have links to the FireSmart BC and RDOS website so that you can take a look at. They're very good, very readable material that's available. And if you live in Naramata, this Saturday, the FireSmart folks are going out there to host a pancake breakfast from 9:30 to 11:30. The team will be there with FireSmart information and along with the Naramata Fire Department. And anytime there is a FireSmart event, they have lots of brochures on your home protection, landscaping. There really are a lot of resources. So thank you very much again
Thank you
for
for
the
having me.
talk. Yeah, and we'll probably see you around the community a fair bit over the
You
next
will.
few years. Yeah, and I just now have a few announcements to make before we close the evening. If you are interested in watching a very topical movie, First Things First has a book and movie club, and this coming Tuesday, March the 25th, Books and Views and Tales meets at the Oasis United Church in Penticton. They'll be watching a documentary and discussing Seaspiracy. Also, we have uh, in every month. So next month's deep dive event is April the 24th. We have a speaker from Vernon talking about their Zero Home Retrofit Collective. So they have a project where they aim to retrofit 500 houses in Vernon. All of this information you can see on our website. So check us out if you haven't already. And we are hosting our own retrofit event Saturday, April the 26th. We're doing this with the City of Penticton and the RDOS and Summerland Green Drinks. It's a free event. You'll learn about if you're thinking about installing a heat pump, if you're thinking of doing electrical upgrades. We'll discuss all those topics next on Saturday, April the 26th. So hope to see you there. So good night, everybody. Thanks very much and great questions and super to get this presentation. Thanks again, Clay.